When I was 6 years old, I was in the first grade, and one day I was asked a question that would drastically change the way that I viewed myself. At first, I didn't know how to feel about this question, but then it was asked again and then again. Being asked this question several times began to take a toll on me and became one of the driving forces of my insecurities, even to this day. The question was, why are you so light-skinned? For those of you who don't know, this question has several deeper meanings. Asking this question also means, why are you acting so light-skinned? Which means, why are you so soft, so cocky, so pretty, or entitled? As a young Afro-Latino growing up in America, this question cut me even more deeply because often we are told not to show signs of any weakness or vulnerability. To me, it was as if my light skin simply added to the pressures that had been placed on me by society since childhood. A little bit about me, I was confident in my intelligence from a very young age. My mother always made sure I had the resources I needed to learn and enhance my education. I was the kid who always had a book in my hand, I spoke and participated in school, and I was very artistic. Even at a young age, it was often these traits that would lead people to ask me the question of, why are you so light-skinned? Or why are you acting so light-skinned? This question affected me so deeply that it began to eat at me. The more I heard it, the less I participated in school or put myself on display in any shape or form. It was like a slow and painful death. I was dying inside and I didn't even know it. Subconsciously, I began to judge myself. I would think, you're so light-skinned and you're showing off for what? I even began to judge my physical appearance. My curly hair, my bright eyes, my nose and lips, and naturally my light skin. All things that I used to find value in became a living, permanent reminder of how light-skinned I was. This self-degradation continued until about my 7th grade year when the pandemic hit. Life for many during this time became a reflection period, and I was of no exception to this. Through many conversations with my mom about school and past events, I began to unravel all of the gripping tensions on my life. Simultaneously, I was continuing school via online learning. Sometime later into that year, we began a unit in school in which we identified and dissected racial tensions in earlier history. And that was how I learned about colorism. I learned that colorism is the discrimination or prejudice against a person's skin tone or color. Colorism is an issue that has been present in our society since before America was formed as a nation. It has negatively affected several generations of the past and continues to affect the generations of today. And yet, there is still so much information that is not known about the subject, its practices, or even its effects on others. There is a lot of data about how colorism affects dark-skinned people. For instance, in a study conducted by Pew Research Center of Latinos, Pew found that 62% of Hispanics claim that having a darker skin color hurts Latinos' ability to get ahead. 59% of Latinos claim that having a lighter skin tone helps Latinos' ability to get ahead. GMA did a segment on colorism portraying the same narrative as did the World Economic Forum. Each one studied the ways in which colorism affects dark-skinned people. Furthermore, colorism is such a prevalent issue because it is so deeply rooted in the history of America. During the early 16th century, white American slave masters pitted light-skinned slaves against their darker counterparts. Dark-skinned slaves were viewed as less attractive, physically stronger, and more susceptible to pain, which often meant they were given the most difficult tasks on the plantation, many known as field slaves. Light-skinned slaves, however, were viewed as more attractive, intelligent, and better suited for housework, hence the term house slaves. Both groups, however, were subject to great abuse. Dark-skinned slaves were beaten near death, sold to the highest bidders at auctions, ripped away from their families, and were even mutilated. Light-skinned slaves were often closer to the masters of their plantations, and many young enslaved men and women were subject to sexual abuse, forced to bear the children of their masters, and due to the growing trend of incest in plantation households, were given a variety of diseases that wiped out generations of enslaved people. Even with the recording of this information, there still remains a great amount of tension between groups of lighter and darker skinned people within the Black community today. The data is clear about how oppressive colorism is within systemic institutions against dark-skinned people, and I do not by any means want to invalidate the stories that many of my brothers and sisters have experienced. However, in doing research on colorism, there is a story I didn't find in the data, mine. I could find little to no articles or sources that corroborate what I'm saying, yet there are so many accounts like mine from people across the globe, on the internet, and even from people in my own life about how having a lighter skin color has negatively affected their treatment within their own ethnic communities. Though I cannot attest to many of the experiences that my darker skinned counterparts have had in regards to colorism, the same can be said about my experiences and the experiences of those who look like me. I may never be able to fully understand what it has been like for people with darker skin, and that is okay. But what I do know is that no one deserves to be discriminated against or treated differently because of the color of their skin, like I was. This caused me to reevaluate the way that I thought about myself and even the way that I thought about others. Every day I would wake up and I would practice saying something nice about myself. The same features I had grown to hate, I began to find value in again. And further, I began to find value in myself, the person I was then, and even the person I am now. Now I'm light-skinned and proud of who I am, and that is how I show up in any space, no longer questioning my Blackness. Perhaps we should all reevaluate the way through which we view ourselves and those around us. Thank you.